what I think we might do to get started here is I'm just going to hand off to the guys to introduce themselves. So I'm just starting with myself as Zuzi mentioned. I'm the CTO COO for NNNCo. I also represent the Smart Cities work group for the LoRa Alliance and regional vice chair for APAC. So it's a real pleasure to be here at the Lounge Connect to have a discussion about some of the opportunities for smart cities and how we might enhance that market in a global sense. So I might just hand over, and down at the far end here we've got Lubo, who is from MClimate. I'll just get him to introduce himself, just maybe 1 minute, talking about your business and yourself, and we'll go from there.
Hi all, my name is Lyubo. I'm from Bulgaria, a small country in Europe. We are actually not so much in the smart city, but rather in the smart building, which is obviously a part of the smart city. We're a company that is 8 years old, almost. We do things that optimize the energy efficiency. We also work with water, so we control water, we detect floods, and we also detect air quality. As a company, we do have kind of two lines of products. One of it is the hardware products, and the other one is the software products. We install all types of buildings. Actually, this is the reason why we developed the software products, the IoT platform. Actually, two main reasons. First, most of the IoT platforms out there are very good for sensors, but not so good for actuators. And when you think about the smart city and all the kind of global problems that are currently active, it's very important to also control things, not only to sense them. And we saw that people take a very long time to test our products and then to roll out projects. So we decided, hey, we have a great software team. We're going to develop also our own IoT platform, which is very good for actuators as well. And then we have the hardware products, which you can come by our stand in the hall. And by the way, we're celebrating that we're active in 26 countries. So we're giving away 26 products on this expo. Today we're going to be kind of getting the winners. So if you want, you can drop by and just put your name and email, and that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Levin. And to your left, we have Ines. Ines, I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ines. I live in Brazil. Our company is HT Micron. We are a factory of advanced semiconductors. So what we show here at the show is our new system package, a small IoT chip that comes with LoRa and Bluetooth. And we are very excited about this because we hope to see this in many, many solutions in IoT and smart city, in many verticals very soon, not only in Brazil, but worldwide.
Thanks, Ines. And finally, Gabriel from Everynet.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. So Gabriel Nave, I look after the U.S. business for Everynet. Everynet is a global neutral host LoRa network operator, which we can talk more about what neutral host means, but basically it means we're LNS agnostic. So we're the only ones who are putting gateways up on cell towers and then basically virtualizing those in a cloud RAN layer that allows any network server to connect to our network on an individual device basis or on a global basis.
Terrific. Thanks, everyone. And look, thanks for coming along and helping me flesh this out. I mean, it's a bit boring listening to me. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to set a little bit of a framework for our understanding, and then we're going to ask a couple of questions across to the group and just get their views, and then hopefully there might be a little bit of time at the end if there's any comments or questions that people might have. So smart cities, obviously my approach on smart cities and how I see this is all elements of what we see here on the panel are required, and you need solutions. You need the actual components to go into the solutions. We need the network to drive the solutions. But overall, the city themselves needs to be engaged in a process. And the question is, why would a city be involved in IoT, and how does it help them as a city and help their communities and so forth? So one of the first questions I've kind of got for the group here, and you know, some will have more views than others, but I do agree, Ludo, with what you said before about the fact that you've got in every city you've got lots of buildings, right? In every location, the community is full of buildings, which means the solutions they need are typically going to be indoor and outdoor. But from your perspective, what are you seeing, and what are the types of solutions that you might see are relevant for cities, and how that might play into what you guys do particularly?
Okay. Couple of interesting statistics. First, we spend 80% of our time indoors, so in buildings. Second, buildings use 40% of the energy. This is statistics for the EU. And third, buildings contribute to 36% of the CO2 emissions. And I think that's telling enough. I think that when you roll out solutions for cities and working with cities, we do work with a couple of cities, and I must say that it's a very big pain. You know, people inside the municipality usually are not extremely technical. They don't know what LoRaWAN is. They wonder, hey, you know, how do I connect this? Is there a network? What are the costs? So I would say that for us to be successful working with those cities, it was important to actually offer an end-to-end solution, to be able to, you know, just allow them to skip the step with the connectivity and tell them, hey, we're going to figure this out. And we do the research about connectivity. So doing the extra step for the city, for the people that are not so technical, because at the end of the day, those people want to understand what are the impacts that the solution they're about to roll out is going to have, and also what are going to be the costs. So if you're able to answer those two questions precisely, so they can present it to the municipal board and allocate the budget for it, I think that's pretty much enough. The connection between different parts, you know, different solutions, and then the connection with the city, it's interesting. Like we have a solution which optimizes heating. It optimizes heating with radiators. So it could be gas, it could be district heating, etc. But for example, the district heating use case is very interesting, where you can actually, you know, it's usually things are very separated. So the tenants are one part, then you have the municipality, then you have also the district heating plants. And usually you don't really communicate with all of them. But once you install enough devices in a city, then you have the power to also do demand response, to do the peak shaving, basically to balance the grid, whatever the grid is. It could be electricity, it could be heating, it could be gas, whatever. So I think that most cities in Europe are not there yet. I think the states are way more advanced than Europe. But I think it's interesting that this also opens up a lot of new possibilities afterwards. And I think this, you know, the far future, 3, 5, 10 years should be also communicated to in order to be able to land the deal. Yeah.
Thanks, Luba. Well, that's similar to my experiences in Australia and other areas around the world. I find that an anchor use case sometimes is what they need. They need something which is the anchor that they go, I can pin my engagement and IoT around something, and then everything else, because of the nature of LoRaWAN, you can do an over-the-top play. Ines, have you got any sort of input into those solutions?
Yeah, sure. One of my favorite use cases is from 2019 in Brazil. The city is called Florianopolis. It's a city on the coast, and part of the city is on an island. So there are bridges connecting the two parts of the city. And they had the problem that there was always a lot of traffic, and it's hard to control, and they need to like manage it somehow. So this launched a small competition and invited companies like just brainstorm, just help us to organize it better. And the winner case was a company which is a good partner of ours. They put sensors on all 4 lanes of the bridge connecting the island and the continent part, on the entrance and on the exit. So they knew then how many cars were passing on the bridge every day, and they started to get a real informed impression, not only an impression of it's much traffic or it's low traffic. They knew exactly how many cars were passing by. This was done in partnership with the department of the traffic management of the city. And then they got with this data into a discussion whether to build a third lane to exit it better. So this is something which is a small solution. It's really simple, but really start to get informed information. And as they did it on one of the most known bridges in the city, this huge coverage of media, like, hey, IoT is really useful. So as you say, anchor cases are really important. So you connect the city name, the impression of the situation, of the environment you have, the use case you face, and the problem you have, and then you can tell the population, hey, it's really simple. With some simple sensors and some simple data, you do not need to know which cars were there and which people passed there. You just need to count. It's a simple data, but you can really take important decisions on that.
I think that's really, really important. I think, the words data-driven decisions, right? So instead of just making it up, it's data-driven. Okay.
If you'd like me to weigh in on this one, yeah. So I have this very vivid memory a number of years ago now at a AT&T conference in Atlanta, and the mayor of Atlanta got up and just reminded an audience of several thousand people that that cities, municipalities are political organisms, and the entire organism exists for the sole purpose of getting the mayor reelected. And it was an important confession for the mayor of the city of Atlanta to make, and it's an important thing for us to keep in mind when we're talking to municipalities. And so, like has been said, that anchor use case has to be something that is easy to implement, has a high visibility, a high ESG operative or ROI for the city, that they can go back to the citizenry and say, look at what we've done. And if you don't have that, then you're never going to get the city to invest in something. And so, from a use case perspective, we've sort of, in the United States anyways, we have a team going to meet with all municipalities, and their messaging is really revolved around smart waste, smart lighting, and smart parking, because waste and parking in particular are very heavy nuisances for the citizenry. Lighting is one that has a very measurable, easy ROI. So that's where they're starting. I would add a fourth that doesn't always come in, but from the because so many of the municipalities are responsible for the fresh water supply. Fresh water is the most, except unless you're in Brazil, it is the world's most scarce resource or valuable resource. You guys have something like 2/3 of the world's fresh water. That's why I look at them. Monitoring the city infrastructure for water distribution, for leak detection or leak prediction is one that is, I think, very heavily up and coming.
So I think that's very consistent with what we've seen as well. In fact, one of the big drivers for city-based water utilities is water management, clearly. Another quick topic as we get on, I've got two more things I want to talk about. Hopefully we can get through them both. One of them is increasingly I'm seeing around the world, and part of the role, I get the opportunity to go and, with a good excuse, go and talk to some cities and just learn some information from them. And one of the themes that comes back to me quite in a recurrent sense is they say questions like, well, how is this going to help me meet my current sustainability goals, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? Now, once upon a time, it wasn't so much of a relevancy, but these days, definitely, we've got cities all over the world signing up and being obligated to these, including in Australia. We've recently had a federal government change, and with that federal government change came a completely 180-degree reversal in attention from nothing to we're going to be net zero by X. And that means that the federal government is going to push that down to the state, and they're going to push it down to the cities. So this is going to become very high profile within our area. There's no question. So I'm interested in other countries and continents who may be further advanced than somewhere like Australia, where I believe we've been quite slow in actually responding to this through lots of geopolitical reasons. But so any view from anyone on the panel here about how the solutions that you've seen, or whether or not this is actually even a topic for cities that you're observing?
Okay, I can start. Yeah, ESG is definitely a very big topic right now. I think it's becoming somewhat of a measuring factor of the ROI as well. Some solutions, they're very hard to, even though you see that they work, it's hard to estimate what is their exact ROI factor. And those people in the municipality or whatever, they do need an exact number to put inside your Excel sheet so they can report. But I think that's generally very positive. I think our experience so far is that actually it was more about capitalistic, inspiration, so to say. So not so much cities pushing and saying, "Hey, we gotta save CO2," but more like companies being socially responsible and deciding, "Hey, that's we gotta do something about the energy." And to a large extent, for our business, the ESG part is yes, managing and reducing the energy, which now becomes not only about the environment but also about the political just stability and being able to provide for your fellow countrymen. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I'm not sure, but I think Gabe, do you have an input on this one?
Well, I mean, I think I mentioned some of the ESG goals when I was commenting a minute ago, and they are federally, state, and locally driven in the United States. So it does vary a little bit by where you are. We like to be the land of the free, right? But everywhere, not everywhere, in most places, it's something that the citizenry really cares about, regardless of what the mandated goals might be. And so, whether that's reducing energy usage inside buildings, managing and monitoring the HVAC systems or the other building control systems. Water utilization is huge, especially in the West where I live. You got parts of Australia that are like that as well, right? We're very dry, and we need to watch the water utilization. So yeah, I would say just across the board, there's a lot of focus on that. I think in some of those places, a lot of those systems have already been put in place in various ways. So prior to LoRaWAN being an option, but in some cases, there are things that aren't working well in the existing models. And we've been talking a bit the last couple of days in our booth about monitoring solar panels, for example, which is historically been done either over cellular or Wi-Fi. And I know in one of the largest solar companies in the United States tells me that of their Wi-Fi deployed monitoring systems, about 17% of them are offline at any given time. And that gives you no visibility to what's going on, or really deprecated visibility on what's going on in your systems. And replacing that with a simple LoRaWAN module can really increase your visibility there.
Yeah, appreciate that. And maybe a comment from Ines.
Yeah, for Brazil, I would say SDG in a very early stage, like there's not much media on it and not much awareness, I would say. But as you say, there are already some systems in place, and they just do not connect so much to this goals, to this thoughts of, hey, we have to work on education, we have to work on zero hunger, we have to work on clean cities, on sustainable communities, and so on. So there are solutions in place. You just do not call it like SDG.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So one example, for example, in São Paulo, if you go to the city, you have these panels, and they will inform you about air quality, which is a big issue in big cities. So the measure they show you when you walk by is good, medium. I have never seen bad, but I believe there might be some situations. But so if you have this kind of information, this kind of measurement, then people won't take it so serious, right? You go there and you see good, and it's still smelly and smoky and so on. So I believe the basis is there, and we can work on that, and we should really improve it.
Yeah, so transparency, and that's something that having connectivity and connected and having an open source and open access to data means that you can get that, and we can start to drive that.
And make people like really trust in data and use it and say, hey, there is a number, and this is a good number. It's not just good and bad and so on, because good and bad in IoT does not mean so much.
No, I appreciate that. I think we might be running out of time. Is Zuzi there? How are we for time, Zuzi?
You have a moment. Certainly, we'd love to take some questions.
Yeah, I might actually do that and hand it if there's any questions from the floor before I would jump on to any final comment that we might have. Anyone have anything they would like to add or contribute or ask? No, that's all good. No problem. Well, look, I might just close it out there with one sort of like final little wrap up statement. First of all, thank you to my fellow panelists very much for your contribution and for joining us. And just the one thing about LoRaWAN that I find is that, and I made these comments in the talk that we had yesterday, and it's very much a theme upon which we work. And I don't believe it's not limited to my business. It's right across the LoRaWAN ecosystem. Not one organization within this LoRaWAN ecosystem can do everything. The LoRa Alliance makes a very good opportunity for collaboration across all of the different parts of the ecosystem, from solutions to network to components. And we should be leveraging those opportunities. And I see that cities represent a really awesome anchor for the distribution of networks, both private and public, so that we can get an opportunity to actually distribute LoRaWAN in a way that becomes truly beneficial and, as I say, this over-the-top play that LoRaWAN provides. So my engagement with them is always to try and get them to understand that there is this opportunity to service not just themselves, but their more wider community. And being a city, they have a distributed network of infrastructure, which means they are ideally suited to be the infrastructure partner around the opportunity for LoRaWAN. So I think I'll call it there, Susie. But so thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.